فاجتنيه فجعلناه سميعا بصيرا إنا هديناه السبيل إما شاكرا وإما كفورا إنا أعتدنا للكافرين سلاسل وأغلالا وسعيرا إن الأبرار يشربون من كأس كان مزاجها كافورا عينا يشرب بها عباد الله يفجرونها تفجيرا يوفون بالنذر ويخافون يوما كان شره مستطيرا ويطعمون الطعام على حبه مسكينا ويتيما وأسيرا إنما نطعمكم لوجه الله لا نريد منكم جزاء ولا شكورا صدق الله العظيم.
In the name of Allah, the most gracious and the most merciful, has there not come upon a man a period of time when he was not a single thing even mentioned? Indeed, we created man from nutfa, mixtures that we may try him, and we made him hearing and seeing. Indeed, we guided him to the way, be he grateful or be he ungrateful. Indeed, we have prepared for the disbelievers chains and shackles and blaze. Indeed, the righteous will drink from a cup of wine, whose mixture is of water from a spring in paradise, called Kafur. A spring of which the righteous servant of Allah will drink. They will make it gush forth in abundance. They are those who fulfill their vows and fear a day whose evil will be widespread. And they give food in spite of love for it to the needy, the orphan, and the captive, saying, we feed you only for the countenance of Allah. We wish not from you reward or gratitude. Jazakallah.
Jazakallah khair. In the words of Barack Obama, when students participate in a debate, they want to study issues in depth and form perspectives, a skill which I use every day in Senate. With that, I would like to invite Ms. Arpana Melanie, Headgirl of IISJ from class 12A4 to address the gathering. Round of applause, please.
Freedom is hammered out on the anvil of discussion, dissent, and debate. For good ideas and true innovation, you need human interaction, conflict, argument, and debate. Respected Vice Principal, Girls Section, Mrs. Faridunisa, Vice Panel of Jury, teachers in charge, brilliant debaters, and my dear friends, Assalamu alaikum and a very fabulous morning to one and all. On behalf of the host school, International Indian School Jeddah, I take immense pride and feel privileged in welcoming you all to the debate competition finals of the 29th cluster meet, where we have participants from schools from all across the kingdom. Debate competitions have indeed proven to be one of the most valuable activities a student can be part of throughout high school. Debate provides experiences that are contributive to life-changing, cognitive and presentational skills. Hence, I congratulate you debaters for acquiring the unique educational benefits that will let you learn and enhance your skills far beyond what can be learned in any other setting. Today we are gathered here to witness the electrifying exchange of ideas, thoughts and words. For the senior debate, the topic being debated on is reservations in jobs and admissions in India should be abolished. Reservation is one of the tools against social oppression and injustice. helping uplift the backward classes. However, it is just one among the many methods for social upliftment, such as scholarships, funds, and welfare schemes. But is reservation really the right tool for social upliftment? The topic being debated on for the junior debate is corruption is the major cause for a country's failure. No science is immune to the infection of corruption. It is a cancer that steals from the poor, eats away the moral fiber, and destroys trust. But is corruption really the cause for a country's failure? So let's get ready to witness the wonderful debater's power of deploying rational, reasoned arguments and compelling evidence in action. Once again, I warmly welcome you all to this very interesting debate competition where our debaters will elucidate their standpoint and eloquently present their thoughts and enter into the heat of the debate. I wish all the participants the very best, and with this, dear audience, let's sit back and enjoy this exciting event. Thank you and have a wonderful day.
Corruption is the major cause for a country's failure.
Before we start, I would like to read out the rules of the debate for the benefit of the participants and the audience. The oral speech for each team has already been decided by the drawing of lots. Each participant has been given a total number, which will figure in the judges' evaluation sheets. The participants should not reveal their names or identity at any time of the speech. Each speaker will be allotted 3 minutes to deliver their speeches with a grace period of 15 seconds to conclude his or her speech. A warning bell will be rung at the end of 3 minutes. The second bell indicates the expiry of the grace period. The third and final bell will be rung at the end of 3 minutes and 20 seconds. If the speaker continues to speak after the third bell is rung, it will result in their disqualification.
The main speeches will be followed by the rebuttal session. Each speaker will be given 5-minute interval for the rebuttal. Each speaker will be given 1 minute 30 seconds for presenting the rebuttal speeches. The order of the order followed to main speeches will be followed for the rebuttal session as well. The evaluation scale is as follows. Analysis of the topic, 10 points. Dictation, delivery and presentation, 10 points. Relevance of the material, 10 points. Evidence and illusion, 10 points. Logic and reasoning, 10 points. And the final rebuttal, 10 points.
The decision of the panel of judges will be final and indisputable. 3 individual prizes will be awarded to the 3 best speakers for and against.
There's something about words in expert hands manipulated deftly. They take you as a prisoner, wind themselves around your limbs. They numb your thoughts and inside of you, they work their magic.
Imagine a country where every citizen is forced to spend 14% of their income on bribes. Or one where the biggest company, which ought to be a national pride, is actually a symbol of corruption. What sounds imaginary to us is a reality for millions of people. Mexicans pay bribes everywhere. From schools to courtroom to hospital, the Brazilian president was brought down after the fraud at the oil giant, and for 30 years, Egyptians saw their money siphoned off by President Hosni Mubarak. Indian election 2019, a bolt out of the blue for the citizens of India. Funny how EVM machines have no secrets to hide, yet seem so skeptical. Not to forget, the MPs had an increase in their income by 200%, thus increasing a boatload of money overnight at the cost of the taxpayers. Corruption has taken over humanity to an extent that even medical fields aren't free from it. In the US, 90,000 pharmaceutical representatives plied the doctors with gifts and junkets. Not surprisingly, many physicians were given significant amounts of money from the big pharma, a median of $39,316. Trading soul with money, am I right? Teenagers are also lured into corruption. You ask a board-going student, aren't you going to study for the boards? No, my dad's wallet is heavy. Is this not enough for a country's tragic downfall, my worthy opponents? And of course, how can we forget? Salman Khan's hit-and-run case. Prosecution accuses the actor's driver of lying under oath. But from Salman's view, defense claims that the actor's driver was... But from Salman's view, defense claims that the car slipping from the crane may have led to the sole death in the case, calling it a possibility. You know what? I smell corruption in the air. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for presenting the arguments. Now I request A1 to take over the podium.
61%. That's the corruption rate in China. 19%. That's the corruption rate in Canada. Anyone care to guess what rankings these countries hold by GDP? The 10th place goes to Canada, whereas the second goes to China. A country with a corruption rate of 42% more than the former. A very pleasant morning to all present here. You know what? Let's borrow a time turner from Harry Potter and go all the way back in time. The birth of corruption can in fact be traced to the beginning of the creation of law. In the 13th century BC, during the Assyrian civilization, where the state was ruled predominantly by unjust laws. Now that we are back to the future, what can we conclude from this? Well, history shows us that corruption is a symptom, not a cause, a symptom of bad leadership. So corruption itself was never the major cause for failure. It was leadership from the very beginning. Bad leadership leads to bad laws, and all countries are governed by laws. Every once in a while, some particular law will come that will favor one particular group of individuals. Now, clearly, the unevenness of this situation is practically impossible to deal with legally. So, the only solution left is for Harry Potter to wave a magic wand and make the world great again. Or, the people can choose to circumnavigate this predicament with a handful of green papers. You may call it being corrupt, but I call it fighting fire with fire. Now, moving on to failure. When does a country truly fail? When it has been classified as a failed state by the entire world. Let's take an example of Syria, a country in the midst of hyper-violence. The major factor for failure over here is war, not corruption. Austria, lack of technology. Uzbekistan, lack of education and forced labor. Pakistan is classified as a failed state due to gender inequality. equality. In fact, in 2013's report of the 10 most failed states, not even one country made the list due to corruption. Countries don't fail overnight. The seeds of their destruction are embedded deep within their political institutions. And corruption is not such a sin. Yes, we must fix corruption. We must fix this corrupt thinking. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I now invite F2 to take the stage and share their opinion.
Corruption is the enemy of development and of good governance. It must be got rid of, says Principal of IISJ, the former President of India. Respected Chairperson, honorable judges, members of the House and my worthy opponents. A very good morning to all of you. Today's topic for the debate is, corruption is the major cause for a country's failure. And I strongly stand for the motion. Corruption. Corruption is a poison that has been used, misused, and overused. And it affects the country so much so that it is now a way of life. Corruption adversely affects the economic efficiency, democratic exercise, and also the essence of public moral and morality. And today, due to corrupt civil services, our country has demoralized, politicized, and to some extent criminalized. Nowadays, anyone from a peon to a finance minister of our country is corrupt. And at the other end, it is the struggle faced by various people. Just taking the recent case of Marble Apartments in Cochin, where the Supreme Court came up with the order to demolish those apartment buildings due to violation of coastal region regulations. Well, do you think a building can be built in a day without being noticed or without getting the permission of the government? Never. So it was just by bribing. And as a result, the owners of those flats are now homeless and destitute, having lost their life savings. Moreover, medical colleges these days are bringing out not doctors. They are just corrupt people in immaculate white coats. We have all seen the private hospitals in India where once a patient is admitted, they try to bill as much as possible by doing unwanted tests, prescribing various medicine and so on. I think none of us can forget the Vyapam scam incident of 2013 in the state of Madhya Pradesh that involved officials employing imposters to write papers, manipulate exam hall seating, and even the supply of forged answer sheets. Are we then entrusting ourselves to a lifesaver or the grim reaper? How sad. Humanity has been sacrificed at the altar of instant materialistic gratification. All because of corruption. Thank you.
Thank you for your display of thoughts, A2. Now let's put our hands together for A2. Speaker A2.
Imagine you have been diagnosed with lung cancer. Would you only blame your previous cigarette for it? Imagine blaming one candy bar for your diabetes. Imagine blaming one factory for global warming. Imagine blaming corruption for a country's failure. Honorable jury, respected teachers, fellow debaters, and my lucky audience. Good morning. Today's topic on the floor is corruption is the major cause for a country's failure. And I have the complete conviction
that there are many reasons a country can fail, both internally and externally. Let's break corruption down, shall we? One, among the major reasons for a country's failure is its unwise and inefficient leadership. So, the absence of an efficient leadership can lead a country to utter failure. It can neither give the basic security to people nor maintain diplomatic relationships with other countries, leading to internal and external disintegration and issues including corruption. Countries like Japan and Germany rose from complete destruction after the Second World War to the fastest growing countries on the planet because of their better leaders. We, the people of any country, do have some duties. Claiming that corruption is ruining countries is like saying that Hitler alone killed 6 million Jews. Bad as he was, even he knew that without public support, he had no power at all. Even the most corrupted country on this planet has 9 or 10 out of 100 people that are corrupt. Corruption occurs between a select group of people, and although it does affect other people, it should not be enough to shatter a nation. World Bank and Transparency International data have shown that China and the Philippines exhibit the same level of corruption. Yet China grew by 10.3% between 1990 and 2000, whereas the Philippines only grew by 3.2%. Corruption is dwarfed in the face of crime, violence, terrorism, and civil war. For any government, crime security expenditures are a drain on the economy. It discourages domestic and foreign direct investments. International Crime and Violence Index says that countries like Congo and Somalia, the so-called corrupted countries, had a murder rate of 13.55 per 100,000 people in 2015. Think about it. Is it only corruption? Is it not speculation? Is it not substandard education? Is it not adulteration? Is it not malnutrition? Is it not pollution? Is it not population? Aren't these some of the major causes for a country's isolation? Thank you.
Growing population, illiteracy, malnutrition, weak diplomatic relations, natural calamities, and the list goes on. Yet, blaming corruption for a country's failure, my dear opponents? Ridiculous. Injustice can't be defined in a more accurate way. Greetings of peace and a pleasant morning to one and all. I'm present here to oppose the motion. Corruption is the major cause of a country's failure. Ladies and gentlemen, here are some citations for you. #armed conflicts. What began 4 years ago as a civil war in Yemen has now become a war of proxy and intervention. About 10,000 people have been killed so far, and half of Yemen's 28 million inhabitants face famine. Not to mention quoted by Jahseen Rizvi, no country can truly develop if half its population is left behind. #outbreak of diseases and man-made pressures. Years of fighting have led to major instability in parts of Democratic Republic of Congo. Over 13 million inhabitants are experiencing crisis or worse levels of food insecurity. The DRC is also witnessing the second largest Ebola outbreak in history. #war and ineffectiveness of foreign aid interventions. Syria, a country destroyed by war. Political and diplomatic efforts to provide aid to Syria have tragically and lethally failed, leaving millions in the war-ravaged country without food, clothing, water, blankets, and medicines. And tell me, my dear opponents, how do you expect the people to be corrupt when they don't even know when will the next bomb hit them? My fellow opponents, think again if you still believe that corruption is the major cause for a country's failure. Japan, one of the most developed countries, does not face the problem of corruption. But it has failed many times in the past due to its weak diplomatic relations with other countries, which resulted in the tragedy of Hiroshima and Nagasaki on 6th August 1945. Now, let me tell you the factor that's affecting Japan's failure at present. Japan has a rate of 13.57% to be hit by a natural disaster anytime. Eruptions of volcanoes like Sakurajima, Mounties, and earthquakes like Miyagi, Hokkaido, Nankaido, Tonenkai, and the Great Machine. Have you all forgotten all those disasters which are not under control? I hope my opponents won't tag nature as corrupt. My fellow opponents, human nature, human diversity is the major cause for a country's failure. Insensibility, intolerance, materialism, extremism, prejudice. When such attributes seize the masses, the failure is certain. My fellow opponents, corruption is not the major cause for a country's failure. My fellow opponents, when you assert corruption to be main cause of a failed state, you slander the statesman and the dust of your hands, not realizing in a democratic country it's not only the citizens, even the people are equally accountable for the growth, sustenance and prosperity of the nation. When you think of an ideal version of your nation, it likely reflects upon your values. I rest my case.
Thank you, Headgirl, for exchanging your ideas. I now call upon F4 to enlighten us with her views.
Power does not corrupt. Fear corrupts. Perhaps the fear of losing power. A warm and a graceful morning to the honorable judges, member of the juries, lovely audience present over there, and not to forget, worthy opponents. Corruption is a never-ending problem in today's world, but in fact, it's increasing day by day. And the reason behind is that people who are on the lower level, they're going to grow on a bigger level. For that, they use unethical practices in order to have what? In order to have better opportunities and better promotions. The increased number of corrupt people in the country also increase the rate of destruction and failure in the country. Nowadays, many are paying to get fake degrees, and they easily get job on the basis of that degree which they got by paying, not by their hard work. And once they start doing their job, their work will be not up to the mark. Not only me, every one of us see on our TVs that many buildings and bridges are falling, many families, children are dying in this, which means this corruption has already started taking people's lives. Indians ought not to have black money. To accomplish the change of black money to white cash, get a strict law giving individual a last opportunity to surrender their black money inside a time frame and let the government recapture half as a tax. For example, if someone is taking money to hire a person in an institute, that means he is hiring an incapable person just for what? Just for money. And definitely the work of that hired person will be not up to the mark, which means he is ultimately affecting the effectiveness. This way, corruption is in every form, place, always results in the failure of a region, place, or the whole country. Although, approximately 71 million? No. 71 billion? No. 71 trillion Indian rupees has been deposited in Swiss bank by Indians. This amount is more than the GDP of 180 countries. Somalia is one of the most corrupt countries, whereas New Zealand and Denmark are the least corrupt countries. 153 out of 543 members of the parliament have pending criminal cases against their name. I would like to ask my worthy opponents, are these the people we want to govern us? I definitely say no. But the most important thing is that we should change ourselves. There is a disease sweeping across India. No. It's not swine flu. It's worse, and it's called corruption. If you're not panicking here, then you should be, because corruption is one of the biggest obstacles in India's path today. It has already affected 50% of our population. On an average, each victim has been affected by this corruption not once, not twice, but 6 times. Since 1997, 199,132 farmers have been committed suicide. What's the cause of such suffering? Poverty, natural disaster, lack of education. No, a much bigger problem called corruption. I would like to conclude by saying that corruption is a true enemy to development. Thank you.
Thank you, F4, for sharing your thoughts. Now we have A4 to present us with their outcome.
99% of all failures of
a nation comes from leadership, who have a habit of making excuses for their inaction, said by George Washington Carver. Respected judges, honorable dignitaries, teachers, students, and my dear worthy opponents, a very warm good morning to one and all. If corruption was the real cause, then its absence would mean widespread prosperity. But we all know this is not the case. Let me give you some examples. According to the Corruption Perspection Index, Bhutan is one of the most least corrupted countries in the world. But guess what? Bhutan is also the 5th least developed country in the world. Similarly, Russia, which ranks 132 in the chart, is one of the most advanced countries in the world, having a per capita income well above the global average. If we carefully analyze the root cause of a country's failure, we will realize that corruption is not the major cause, but the culmination of several slow-grinding factors that eventually led to the country's failure. Like a seed which can germinate into a plant when it is given favorable conditions, corruption emerges only when political institutions refrain from transparency. By all standards, corruption, whether political, bureaucratic, or of any form, must not be viewed as a disease, but as a symptom of weak leadership that setting the nation to fail. This is why from Jamaica to Germany and from Mexico to Mumbai, citizens around the world are speaking out and demanding for right to information to ensure greater accountability from the government. In conclusion, let me remind you, the success of a country heavily depends on its strong economic planning, ability to eradicate poverty, adaptability of modern technologies, creation of an investment-friendly environment, and most importantly, invest in youth like you and I, who can change the world. Back to you.
Thank you for sharing your perspective. Now here is F5 to put forth their viewpoint.
Corruption is when an influential politician uses public funds to provide pistachio ice cream to his family and butterscotch to his extended relatives. He transfers garden furniture to his Caesarea villa, then expects that the cost be covered for the water in his pool and fights to get a private jet. A very good morning to one and all present here. Today, I stand before you to debate for the motion on the floor that corruption is the major cause for a country's failure. If we talk about a vast and oppressive rule like that of Stalin's, let me tell you, he was brought down by corruption. This is to give an idea of just how fatal corruption can be to a very well-informed audience. According to the World Bank, the average income of countries with a high level of corruption is about 1/3 of that of countries with a moderate or low level of corruption. But hold on a minute. Why do we associate only politicians with corruption? What about that toilet attendant who charges you ₹5 rather than the regular ₹2 fee to provide you a cleaner toilet? What about those babus who work with the policy, it's my turn to eat, jeopardizing the entire country by corrupting the system? This is so ridiculous. I ask you, if corruption infiltrates even that level, what other sector is left of a nation to destroy and fail? If all the essential and major sectors are crudely affected due to corruption, doesn't it already show complete failure of a country in its bureaucracy? Well, if you need more proof at this point, let's take a look at the Failed States Index, which shows that 8 of the 10 weakest countries in the world also top the corruption list, proving that one of the clearest symptoms of failure is systemic corruption. But let's leave stats aside for a while and speak logically. Probably too hard for We all know of the FBI, don't we? It is the Federal Bureau of Investigation, which happens to be one of the top best secret services in the world. Their main website states that public corruption, which, according to them and not me, can change the way everything works and can easily bring the downfall of a country. I would like to conclude by quoting Rigoberta Menchú, a Nobel Prize laureate who once said that without strong watchdog institutions, impunity becomes the very foundation of a country. And impunity is the very thing that could easily kill your country. Thank you.
Thank you, A5, for stating your opinions. I now call upon A5 to enlighten us with their beliefs.
A simple question. Where is the capital of India? It's in the Swiss bank. The Economic Times, India's leading business daily, reports that the amount of Indian black money in Swiss banks is estimated to be 90 lakh crore rupees, or $1,500 billion. This is evidence of corruption at the highest level. And yet, as the International Monetary Fund reported last week, India is also the world's fastest growing economy, tied with China. So, corruption cannot be the main cause for the failure of a nation. Honorable judges, dignitaries, and my worthy opponents. Assalamu alaikum. I'm A7, or A5, my bad, and I will be speaking against the motion. China, second only to the US in GDP. Russia, another superpower. Vietnam, Brazil, Thailand are all high in the global corruption index, and yet they are thriving economies. Now, are the countries with low levels of corruption really flourishing? Not necessarily. Bhutan and Rwanda fall in the list of the top 50 least corrupted countries in the world. Yet, they are thriving, or they're third world countries. Corruption is a symptom of bad governance, not its cause. It is the mindset of the people and the policymakers of a country that decide its fate. This is the exact reason why, despite having similar geographical location and history, the hard-working South Korea is rich and the autocratic North Korea poor. The liberal USA is strong and the lawless Mexico is struggling. We tend to ignore the fact that short-sighted government policies and inefficiencies are the main reason for the failure of a nation. I'm sure none of us would tolerate a visibly corrupt leader, but at the same time we condone inefficient leaders into office and allow them to stay there until they retire. In such a government system, officials, judges, and ministers cannot be expelled. Since there is no pressure on them to perform, they become complicit, and this inefficient and unproductive government machinery becomes the main cause for the failure of a nation, leading to corruption. Some amount of corruption exists everywhere. If the right policies are in place, like the right to recall an elected leader who is corrupt or inefficient, there will be accountability and competencies will not creep in to rot the system of a nation. No, an English teacher was teaching tenses to his students, and he asked them, "Our country will be corruption-free. Which tense is this?" The student, he got up confidently and he answered, "Future impossible tense." Let us work hard to keep this joke a joke and not the reality it is. Thank you.
Thank you, A5, for stating your opinions. Now let's put our hands together for F6.
There is no more greater menace to civilization than a bunch of incompetent, corrupt people. No science is immune to the infection of corruption. Well stated by the big one. Esteemed chairperson, members of the jury, my most worthy opponents, and fellow audience, a very pleasant morning to all. The topic today is corruption is the main cause of a country's failure, and I stand here to strongly favor the notion. It's easy to break laws by the corrupt policeman. It's easy to make money by the use of goon power. And it's equally easy for a country with such corrupt minds to fail. From mood to tone, corruption has become an integral part of our life. At every stage of life, corruption stares at you in the eye. Let's start with schools and colleges, the basic platforms from where we
These areas itself are corrupted. How can you even imagine the country's progress? Patients die in the hands of such doctors. Money is lost in the hands of such accountants. Humanity dies in the hands of such scholars. Justice is lost in the hands of such judges. A nation dies in the hands of corrupt people. In a corrupt nation, people are willing to come up with innovative ideas. The society is divided into haves and have-nots. Crime rates are high. Voters are bribed, leading to nomination of such incapable leaders that don't you think all this greatly hinders the development of a country? Ladies and gentlemen, a country is certainly doomed to fail if it is caught in such a vicious cycle of corruption. According to Transparency International, in most of the undeveloped countries, Sudan, Mali, judicial corruption rates are exceptionally high. The justice providers, the pillars of a country are corrupt. The country will eventually and certainly fail. According to Corruption Perception Index 2018, there is a strong relation between corruption scores and failures. To gain approval, let me give you an example. 2019 Failed State Index. 8 out of the 10 weakest countries appeared on the recent Corruption Perception Index's bottom 10 rankings of countries perceived as most corrupt. What else do you need to say that corruption is the major cause of a country's failure? Somalia is a striking example of a country whose machinery was held hostage for corruption before it finally collapsed in 1991. The result is what and where we see Somalia today. Destroying a nation does not require the use of atomic bomb. Corruption is suffice. I say failure of a country is because all the different sectors of its economy practice corruption. Corruption in politics, police, judiciary, education system, religion, labor unions, philosophy, the list is endless. Corruption does not only wipe out a country from the list of progressives, it also erodes its rich ethos. Therefore, I conclude corruption is definitely the major cause of a country's failure. The virus of corruption is eating the nations. Worse gets the situation when the corrupt themselves are on inspection. Thus I rest my case.
Thank you, F6, for sharing your argument. I now call upon A6 to take over the podium.
Little kids going to sleep empty stomach, having to rise with pangs of hunger, deprived of schooling is a great social evil. Discrimination, basis caste, creed, color, systematically depriving the lower rung of society is a great social evil. Gender inequality, abuse of environment, plunder of nature are a few matters to list which are greater deterrents to progress than corruption itself. Then it's obvious that there is no point in claiming otherwise. Honorable panel of jury, motivating audience, and my worthy opponents, a very bright morning to everyone seated here today. In 2002, when Modi was elected as the Chief Minister of Gujarat, he received international condemnation for not speaking up against violent riots. When countries do not even have efficient leaders to speak up against the wrong, my worthy opponents would love to claim that countries majorly fail due to corruption. After all, let's be honest, leaders shall never follow the Linoleum rule of diplomacy. Real G's move in silence like lasagna. Please hold your thoughts, and before you point out how educated men commit to corruption, let's understand the same educated men are not educated enough to know the lasting impact corruption has on the state, society, and the nation. Statistics does not support my worthy opponent's claims either. Facts Index by Transparency International, an organization leading the fight against corruption, has proven India, ranked 78th in the Corruption Perception Index, has improved their score by 3 points in the past 4 years, yet has no economic progress to show. Instead, the rate of pace of GDP has fallen by 3%. Now, if corruption was stated to be the driving factor of a country's failure, shouldn't have been their progress in the last 4 years? Let's assume India is 100% corruption-free today. Tomorrow, will it stop people from fighting over their religions in the name of their lords? No. stop women from quickening their pace after 8 p.m.? No. Will it stop daughters being sold like products in the market when their hand is asked in marriage? No. Will it stop possibilities and dreams being taken away from young, deserving, talented minds? Absolutely not. I strongly believe we will have a country not only progressing, but the nation's galloping ahead, where the evil of illiteracy is quashed. We will then see children going to school with a smile on their face, which is a stepping stone for a country's progress. We shall put a beginning to this, and it is only us humans who can. Thank you.
Thank you, Xxix. I now invite F7 onto the stage to present their thoughts.
Nothing explains the success or failure of a country more than does the presence or absence of corruption. Dennis Prager, and I quote, respected chairperson, members of the jury, fellow debaters, and my most wonderful audience, a very warm morning to one and all. Today, I stand before you to express my opinion in favor of the given topic. Corruption is a major cause of failure of a country. Corruption is authority plus monopoly minus transparency. It is the misuse or abuse of entrusted power or office for illicit personal gain. Corruption is a major obstacle to democracy and the rule of law. It misrepresents elections and legislature and distorts policy making. It also affects a nation's income. When income inequalities are created to grease the wheels of bureaucracy, the working mechanism of a country is doomed to fail. Have you heard about Brazil's state-owned oil company, Petrobras? Well, turned out it was a huge money laundering scandal. The investigation uncovered up to $5 billion paid as bribes to both political parties and executives alike. This scandal took Brazil from an example of economic growth to deep recession in a matter of a few years. If I had a penny for every single time a scandal went down in a corrupt country, I would be a millionaire by today. According to the Foreign Direct Investment, a survey of 16 Asian countries reported that a 1 unit increase on the corruption index leads to a 9 to 14% reduction on the FDI. According to the World Bank, the average income in countries with a high level of corruption is about a third, as compared to countries with a low level of corruption. Corruption corrodes the very fabric of society. When a policeman is given a bribe to look away from a criminal act, the society is overrun by criminality. When the wheels of a government grind to a halt for those who cannot pay their bribes, society ceases to function. In highly corrupt settings, even basic services like health and education are often neglected. In highly corrupt countries, the infant mortality rate is 3 times higher, while the literacy rate is 25% lower. Corruption also affects the environment. It affects factors such as deforestation, depletion of resources, fuel scarcity for decades, and not to mention the illegal trafficking of wood and wildlife. So, before you run down the street and bribe that policeman for giving you a parking ticket, you need to take a step back and think about how it affects your democracy and how it affects your country. What more is left to prove? That corruption is a major cause of failure of a country. Thank you. I rest my case.
Thank you, F7. Next in line to express their ideas is A7.
Development is about transforming the life of others, not just transforming economies. Can a country progress if there is indecision by the leadership for the fear of corruption? Honorable judges, respected teachers, and my worthy opponents, corruption is a major cause for a country's failure. And I strongly stand against this notion. No country ever in the history of mankind failed due to corruption. Corruption is just an effect, not a cause. It's a parasite that prospers on some vulnerability. Dear friends, every nation must deal with multitudes of problems. Hostile labors, fragile boundaries, health, sanitation, education, infrastructure. It is the leadership ability to handle those problems that decides the fate of that nation. Iraq was once known as the cradle of civilization. It is here that mankind first learned to read, write, create laws, and live in cities under an organized government. But Iraq failed due to the misadventure of its leader. Soviet Union, who once rivaled the United States in all means, got extinct due to its leader's inability to decide whether to centralize or decentralize the economy. If my worthy opponents are still not convinced, be informed that India occupies 78th position in corruption index by Transparency International, and our neighbor, made in China, occupies 87th position. But can my worthy opponents deny the fact that India has not progressed by leaps and bounds? Would they even dare to say that India is a failed nation because of corruption? When India holds 6th position in World GDP Index and China at 5. Was it corruption that brought down North Korea or South Africa? No. It was the lack of property rights in Korea and the apartheid in Africa that created the chaos. Can my worthy opponents forget Japan? Despite the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, despite the frequent earthquakes and tsunamis, Japan is one of the most developed countries of the world. Is it corruption-free? Absolutely not. If corruption was to be a villain, Denmark should have been the most successful country, as they received the Oscar for zero corruption. Yet, they're at the 36th position in terms of GDP and still struggling with economic inequality. My opponents have a choice. Develop your leadership skills and think judiciously, or keep on reproaching corruption for every crisis that a nation faces. So friends, let's be a generation of doers, not mere detractors. Albert Einstein rightly said, the world will not be destroyed by those who do evil, but those who watch them without doing anything. I rest my case.
Thank you, A7, for sharing your perceptions. Let us now welcome FA. A huge round of applause, please.
My fate was sealed the day you accepted that bribe. I am the democracy that yearns to be healed. Tell me, how much have you paid for my exile? Esteemed panel of judges, winsome audience, and my worthy opponents. Good morning. I fiercely support the motion. Corruption is the major cause of a nation's failure. Corruption comes in many forms. Bribery, kickbacks, extortion, nepotism, cronyism. Since the dawn of time itself, the deadliest disease destroying nations from their roots is corruption. The Panama Papers, which exposed 82 countries, 140 politicians, 33 companies, and 12 government leaders, is just the tip of the iceberg, which runs deep, just like corruption that's in every country. Where does this money come from? It is proved evidence that corruption is a truly global challenge and a major cause of downfall of many nations. It starts as small as an ailing father bribing for his son's admission, and snowballs to the top bureaucrats moving billions of dollars in black. It is a termite on steroids, hell-bent on hollowing the nation's founding pillars. When the Watergate financial crisis struck, the Spaniards found mortgages unpayable, their jobs disappeared, and essential social services were cut down. The researched reasons were that corruption had bred into the government and governance. What if corruption penetrates the armed forces? Can the borders of the nation be secure? What if the education system is corrupt? Will its product be a workforce that develops the nation? What if corruption enters the health sector? Countless lives will be at stake. It is not a matter of what if. Corruption is already embedded deep into the governments of many nations. The suicide of former President Alan Garcia of Peru has sprung the question, what will be the price of the country's painful reckoning with corruption? The horrifying facts stated by UN is that corruption costs at least $2.6 trillion. Wait. Maybe my opponents didn't get that. I'll say again,
That is $2.6 trillion, equal to 5% of the global GDP. The World Bank cites that $1 billion are paid annually as bribes. The average income in countries with high level of corruption is about third in those countries with low level of corruption. Rampant corruption is the fabric of destruction. My blissfully ignorant opponents, how many more nations need to plummet into the black quagmire of corruption before we realize the white truth that indeed corruption is the major cause of a nation's failure? I rest my case.
Thank you, F8, for presenting your valuable thoughts. Now allow me to call upon A8 to the stage. Speaker A8.
Do you want to be a doctor? Are you ambitious to be an engineer? Do you wish to be a student? You'll be glad to know that the private managements nowadays won't ask your educational or character certificates, but they'll surely ask you, Beta, do you have money? Esteemed judges, faculty from various schools, not to forget my worthy opponents, and wonderful audience of fact this morning to Anadolu. The topic for discussion is corruption is the major cause for a country's failure, and I strongly stand against the motion. Corruption prevails in every society, in one form or the other. My worthy opponents and friends, even in this 21st century, to satisfy one's need, we must satisfy the needs of others. However, our question is this corruption the major cause for a country to fail? I strongly disagree with it. Let's take the case of two countries, France and Austria. According to the Corruption Index of 2019, which is arranged in the increasing order of corrupt countries, Austria ranks 14th, while France ranks 21st, which implies France is a more corrupted country than Austria. But if we look at the Social Progress Index, which measures the extent to which countries provide for the social and environmental needs of their citizens, France ranks 15th, while Austria 20th. Let it be the case of GDP or Health Index of 2019. France always ranks better than Austria. So think, if corruption was the major cause for a country to fail, in what way could France become more developed than Austria? And there comes my point. Corruption is not the prime reason for a country to collapse. Friends, about 300 acid attacks happen in India each year. Nearly 8 lakh children are reported missing every year. More than 1,000 people died in terrorist attacks this year. So do you think corruption is a major cause? Or lack of education, lack of morality, and lack of humanity among the people of a nation? Corruption is just one of the many social evils for a country to fall apart, which I think my worthy opponents are unaware of. Forced labor in Uzbekistan, no law and order in Somalia, a weak central government in Colombia, religious intolerance in India, racism, casteism, communism, poverty, illiteracy, unemployment, inequality, you name it. However, the list is endless. And still, if my opponents say corruption is a major cause, I'll say hashtag you're narrow-minded. The fact is, corruption has become the passport for one's progress in life. And I think my worthy opponents are still stuck in the airport. Thank you, and I rest my case.
Thank you, A8. Now I kindly request the judges to please make a note that Speaker F9 is absent. Speaker F9 is absent. Let's move on to our next speaker, A9.
The development process has multiple factors. Economics is only one part of the game. Politics, too, can be partly to blame. When a country just stagnates and development slows, social division can also deal blows. So massive corruption is not an absolute matter. Respected chairperson, members of the jury, and most by the opponents, a very good morning. I stand here here today to strongly oppose the motion, corruption is a major cause for a country's failure. Illiteracy, poverty, ethnic clashes, epidemics, natural calamities. All act as determinants for a nation's success or failure. Doesn't this prove that corruption is just a symptom and not the disease that corrodes the country? Isn't corruption just culturally normal when not a single country in the world is 100% corruption free as proved by Transparency International? Wouldn't saying corruption to be the only cause of a country's failure be a very narrow-minded thinking? Are the judges and policemen in a developed nation like America all saints? Ladies and gentlemen, let me stress that it is low-quality education that is a doom for the nation. If the citizens are enlightened, educated, and well-informed, they can surely steer the ship to anchor. As Napoleon said, a leader is indeed a dealer in hope. It is a leader who can make mineral-deficient Japan reach great heights, or at the same time turn oil-rich Venezuela into a poor and pauper state. When the leaders of a country are asleep, people like Vijay Mallya and Nirav Modi will obviously escape. Usually mistaken as a messenger of destruction, corruption is an indicator of development and not an obstacle for a nation's economic growth. My worthy opponents themselves would be aware of the fact that corrupt countries like Bangladesh and Indonesia both have grown economically. Brazil still has a high standard of living, and China yet remains to be the second largest economy in the world. These countries are developed due to female empowerment, high quality education, no discrimination, capable and effective rulers, and protection of civil liberties and human rights. Thus, corruption is just a piece of a complex jigsaw that leads to the collapse of a nation. Did the Soviet Union, Maoist China, Nazi Germany all fail because of corruption? Obviously not. Communist USSR, being devoid of corruption, could not survive. But Russia, with corruption, has. Therefore, if corruption is one of the 1,000 causes for a country's failure, a country should not forget the other 999 causes as well. Terrorism, fanaticism, fascism, all these ideologies have little to do with corruption, but they have proven to be far more dangerous than corruption itself. Therefore, in turning these factors into history, lies a nation's victory. When the voices and actions are complementary, the nation would prosper, attaining mastery. Thank you.
Thank you, A9.
And with that, we have reached the end of the first session of the much-heated debate. Now it's time to move on to the next session, that is the rebuttal round. The talented debaters will take over the podium to counterweigh the arguments presented by their worthy opponents.
Before that, we would like to remind everyone briefly about the rules for the rebuttal. The speakers will be given a 5-minute interval for the preparation of the rebuttal, of which you will be notified. Each speaker will be given 1 minute 30 seconds for the rebuttal. Rebuttal is a countervailing of the evidences presented by the opponents and should not be an extension of their main speeches. So use your time wisely and make the best of it. It is also a humble request to the audience to maintain silence as the participants prepare the rebuttal speeches. Participants, your time starts now.
Good morning once again. So, my educated opponents deny that corruption is a major cause for a country's failure. Okay. Corruption is a symptom that runs in the blood of the people. Lack of education, literating children won't change anything. What about the adults who are uneducated and that thus prone to stealing, cheating, or in other words, get corrupted? Inefficiency. Elements associating with it are public ownership, inflation, lack of order, lack of security, and more. And let me tell you, my dear opponents, corruption appears to play a fundamental role when it comes to inefficiency, as proven and stated by Martin Rossi, Journal of Public Economics. Cultural environments also condone corruption, defending and admiring groups, rationalizing false arguments with no moral basis phrases like, everyone does it, take advantage while you can, life is short. Who ought to promote that culture? Social leaders? Everyone? Politicians are not the only ones responsible for a country, but also the people. Low awareness, lack of courage to denounce corruption behavior leads to corruption. Why on earth are the people not voicing their opinions and instead covering for the corrupt individuals? Because it's none of my business, and they say they're patriotic. Rapists and murderers walk around freely on roads. Why? Talk about women's and children's safety as a major problem. I apologize if I offend you with my harsh and accurate facts that were stated. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Now, I once again request A1 to come and present his rebuttal.
One of my worthy opponents mentioned the case of superstar Salman Khan. Well, with all due respect, he is innocent until proven guilty. You smell corruption in the air? I suggest you go to a doctor. One of my worthy opponents stated that 8 of the 10 weakest countries appear on the failed state index due to corruption. Let's take a look at this list. Syria, Yemen, South Sudan, Libya, Colombo. This is a desperate attempt by the opposition to mislead all of us into thinking that these countries have made the list due to corruption, when in reality it has made the list due to wars. Humiliating opposition, dear opposition. My worthy opponents have stated that corruption is present in the judicial system, education system, respiratory system, Xxix system, etc. Just because something exists doesn't mean it's a cause for the destruction. That's like saying because the sun exists, all of us should have skin cancer. So I would like a bit of humility from the opposition before they go lecturing others on their opinions and beliefs. It is easy to give your moral vote against corruption, but it doesn't help anyone get the job. One of my worthy opponents mentioned that to destroy a nation you don't need an atom bomb. Corruption is suffice. An obnoxious and hypocritical statement by the opposition. China is one of the most corrupt countries, yet a behemoth of success. So please, dear opposition, I suggest you do your research. My opponents are convinced that bribery is a force for evil. They want to live childishly and foolishly in a utopia. But in the real world, corruption is present in something even as noble as a charity event. And my opposition aren't completely useless. They can also make bad examples. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for showcasing your argument. I request F2 to take over the podium.
Good morning once again. I would love to nudge the naysayers towards the image that we have in our minds. The picture of an official reaching out a hand under the table, expecting a bribe to clear a case. Let's face it, this is today's reality. One of my worthy opponents stated that population is a major cause. Oh, people are the asset of a country. More people indicate more methods, more ideas, and more skilled laborers. Another of my worthy opponents said that children going to sleep empty stomach is the country's failure. Well, according to a recent survey by Germany, although India is in the heights of poverty, India purchases German-made cars like Audi, BMW, and Mercedes in large quantities. This clearly shows the concentration of wealth in the hands of a few, which is again an outcome of corruption. So, if there were no corruption, I can emphatically say that the various causes that my opponents have pointed out would not even exist. Currently, India ranks 94th on the corruption index. Isn't that shocking? Thank you.
Thank you, F2, for your statement.
Good morning, once again. Listening to all my worthy opponents has done nothing but strengthen my belief that corruption is not the major cause of the country's failure. Why do people love to blame corruption for their country's lack of development? It is that by whining about corruption, all the problem, all the blame is heaped on bad leadership, and the population is able to absolve itself of any blame. My opposition has their own country. Their country is a very special country, really. This is that country that blames corruption, not the people. This is the same kind of country that blames religion, not the people. Instead of looking at a politician and shouting, corrupt, maybe try figuring out the problem. We'd all be better off. Where would the USSR be if not for Cold War sanctions? Where would North Korea be if not under the boot of the rest of the world? They struggle and survive in a slow decline due to radical sanctions and political oppositions, even with corruption within their borders. Peace in the country is a prerequisite for a successful nation. The most corrupt countries of the world consist of countries with armed conflict or any other forms of aggression. So, with no peace, the country is broken into pieces. Thank you.
Thank you, A2. May I now invite F3 for stating their opinions.
Assalamu alaikum and good morning once again. Many of my opponents kept on talking about leaders, leadership, bad leaders, and so on. Well, my dear opponent, leaders become bad when they turn corrupt, when they are unable to make decisions that benefit the public. And that is because they are busy stuffing their wallets. Shh, don't disturb them. That's why it's rightly said, don't expect the government to catch the corrupt. A judge never convicts himself. My opponent believes that lack of education is a cause of country failure. Dear opponents, the question is, why are the children not getting educated? Let's take the example of India. According to the Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan movement, children up to 14 years of age should be educated. They have access to free education. Then why are all the children in India yet not educated? That's where corruption enters. Bribing of coaches, asking administrators to change the scores. Connections also play an important role in the promotion of teachers, altering the result of exam scores. Inability to eradicate poverty. It was mentioned by my opponents. If all the money that can be used to eradicate poverty is being siphoned off the secret account by corrupted officials, then how will poverty be eradicated? One of my opponents talked about political institutions. Well, my dear opponent, these political institutions are there just for the sake of the elites who benefit from the rigged political institutions and the laws tilted for them. Thank you.
Thank you, F3, for stating your ideas. Next to convey the standpoint is A3.
According to the Fragile States Index and Fund for Peace organization, a country is a failed one if it is not able to control its territory, form relations with other countries, procure enough GDP, provide cures for an epidemic, support itself after a natural calamity, and not able to control civil wars and fights. Now, my dear friends, how are you going to relate this to corruption and why? Well, if you can't, I'll tell you. Somalia. Civil war between the people of Somalia and Somalia. Unwillingness of various parties who conflicted there, which resulted in a devastating state. Somalia is much of an artificial construct, geopolitically as other unstable countries like India and Pakistan, separation by Britain. Similarly, the segregation of Somaliland and Somalia plays a key role in its failure. And 2018 epidemic in Somalia can never be forgotten. About 80,000 people were affected and 2,000 killed. And my dear opponents claim that Somalia is affected due to corruption. According to my worthy opponents, all the most corrupt countries in the CPI index are failed. But social clashes, religious conflicts, epidemic outbreaks, and wrath of Mother Nature are ignored. My fellow opponents, this is not Instagram. You can't just swipe away all of the important posts and factors just because one appeals you. None other than my dear opponents would think like that. Take a look at India then and now. Sati and untouchability? No more. Poverty? We can at least afford one meal a day. Is the Chandrayaan a result of development or corruption? Is the creation of ballistic missiles a result of development or corruption? Think.
Thank you, Rizvi.
Top of the morning once again. Since the antenna of my worthy opponent won't pick all of the channels, and my worthy opponent says that the problem of malnutrition, lack of education are more important than the problem of corruption, then let me ask you a question. Why people like Anna Hazare, Arvind Kejriwal kept a fast on the death of the people during corruption? They should have kept a fast on the problem of malnutrition and lack of education. My worthy opponent stated that corruption also prevails in USA, and even USA is more developed. In USA, 1% out of 6 people live in poverty, and that poverty is resulted from corruption. Being brainless, everyone have a privilege, but please don't abuse it. My worthy opponent says that there are many other ways for causing a country's failure, and all the problems that results of the corruption and the success of a country, while corruption is something that we couldn't achieve. Since independence, India has lost around 910 trillion Indian rupees. Due to what? Due to corruption. So I would like to ask my worthy opponent, what do you think about it? Money is really important. Without money, we won't be able to go to school for a better life. And sadly, this is what's happening in India. Due to what? Due to corruption. I would like to conclude by saying that corruption leaves back a treasure and yes, it leaves poor people again through the lane of poverty and of course the rich people richer. Thank you.
Thank you, F4, for sharing your thoughts. Now please welcome A4 to present their views.
Good morning to everyone once again. I very much value the statistics highlighted by my worthy opponents. However, I would like to remind my worthy opponents that there is no country in the world which is known as corruption-free. Many of the developed countries in the world have led in the direction of success, not just because corruption does not exist there, but the leaders of those nations realize that problems like poverty, lack of women empowerment, illiteracy existed in those countries. They managed to tackle these problems which lead to corruption. They know that these factors are what leads to corruption and not vice versa. Some of my worthy opponents stated that Somalia is one of the most corrupt countries in the world, and hence factors like poverty and famine still prevails in the country. My worthy opponents, natural calamities cannot be blamed on corruption. Lack of water cannot be blamed on corruption. Then how can you merely state that corruption is what leads to these factors? We have seen several devastating natural calamities and epidemics spread about in several developed and developing countries. What does the leadership do to face such a challenge? Run away from their responsibilities or address it with confidence? When nails grows on fingers, we don't cut our finger, but we cut the nail. Back to you.
Thank you, A4, for your valuable arguments.
Good morning once again. Firstly, a few of my opponents seem to conjure statistics out of nowhere, trying very hard but obviously failing, to prove that countries fail not due to corruption but other causes such as education system, nepotism, illiteracy, etc., etc. Whereas my statistics from the Oxford Center for the Study of Corruption, a very reliable source, proves that corruption topped the list as a reason for failing countries. Soiled diapers and corrupt politicians should be changed often. Obviously both for the same reasons, yet my opponents seem to protect politicians by not wanting to blame them. Another litigator took it to such heights that even Socrates might rise from his grave and laugh. Corruption doesn't fail a country, bad leadership does. Isn't bad leadership a byproduct of corruption? Everyone is entitled to act pathetic and naive once in a while, but my litigators really abuse that privilege. I rest my case.
Thank you, A5. Now I'd like to invite A5 onto the stage.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back everyone once again. So one of my worthy opponents said that people become corrupt when they cannot make proper decisions for the people. What else am I saying? Corruption is a product of bad decision making and bad governance. You are contradicting yourself in this statement. Also, how do you explain that China ranked 87 on the Global Corruption Index, India ranked 78, and Russia ranked 138 are prosperous countries, and India and China are tied for the fastest growing economies in the world? Is it because they're inclusive or extractive? There are two types of governments, inclusive and extractive. The reason why India, China, Russia are all prospering is because the governments have provided incentive for people to innovate and for people to work towards the betterment of the country. While countries such as the autocratic North Korea are extractive governments. They don't have any incentives, so people do not bother to prosper. It is not corruption that makes a country fail. It is the inclusiveness of the government and their bad decision making. Thank you.
Thank you, A5. Now here is F6 to express their beliefs.
After hearing my fellow opponents, my belief has become even more firm that corruption is the major obstacle for young democracies. As many of my opponents stated, there are countries with corruption, yet they're developed. I'll tell you why. It's because most of these countries are progressively moving towards lower corruption rates. In UK, for example, according to CPI, corruption rates are significantly reducing, which has a positive impact on the development and the society of UK. As for leaders, of course efficient leaders do exist in every nation, but it is because of corruption. Corrupt leaders who keep buying votes for particularly those helpless citizens who struggle for a better lifestyle. And this is why we are devoid of good leaders. No doubt, a leader is indeed a dealer in hope. A leader is indeed a dealer in hope. But if these leaders are corrupt, there is no hope left. Therefore, I conclude that corruption is the major cause of country's failure.
Thank you, Xxix. Next in line to express their viewpoint is A6.
From all that I've heard today from the other side, I can conclude that my opponents fell in love with the truth, got married to it, only to later get a divorce because they weren't on good terms. Honorable panel of jury, motivating audience, and my worthy opponents, a very bright morning to everyone seated here today. Teaching the children won't change anything. First of all, children are the leaders of tomorrow. And if you're so determined to teach everyone, then let's teach. With strong willpower and determination, we can change to an educated world. Corruption is the way of life. Really? Well, I don't remember being corrupt or committing corruption while brushing my teeth. 78. My dear opponent, it's 78. India is ranked 78th in the list of Corruption Perception Index of 2018. Maybe a more updated and reliable source? Materialistic gratification, wanting of power are all ill characteristics of an individual, not corruption. Maybe flip to the dictionary the next time? Dowry, caste, izzat, preference for the male child are all highly prized Indian values, and that is the reality of India today. First, let's get rid of these, and then we can move towards a more progressed country. Now, my dear listeners, I did not gather the truth and evidences from Area 51, but I do doubt my fallacious lies that was stated by the opponents comes from a not so trustworthy aliens. That's the facts for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Xxix. Now I call upon F7 to present their thoughts.
Good morning once again. My fellow debaters argue that lack of education, poor health facilities, poverty, morality are all the causes of a country's failure. My dear worthy opponent, all these sectors face the termite of corruption. When money is allocated for all these sectors, they are instead sent to line the pockets of the corrupt. So these infrastructures, and we will go back to square one, which is corruption. Another one of my worthy opponents said that corruption is not the major cause of failure. Well, after the Colgate scam, inflation at 18%, rupees at 85, onions at 100, tomato at 120, and the GDP is, like my maths marks, 2.7%. Well, Now you may ask me where I got my information from. The answer to that, over the opponents, is have you heard of a newspaper? Well. Another one spoke about property rights being the cause of corruption in North Korea. The country isn't exactly ruled by a pony riding, fun loving person, now is it? Dictatorship is another form of corruption. Remember my saying? Abuse of power for personal gain is also considered corruption. I rest my case. Thank you.
Thank you, F7. Next to convey the insight is A7.
Good morning once again. I really feel sorry for my worthy opponents. They realize that they're defending a losing cause. One worthy opponent raised the red flag with the Panama Papers. Let me ask them. Post the Panama Papers declaration. Name one country. I repeat, name one country featured in the Panama Papers that has failed. Don't try to mask facts behind figures, worthy opponents. Another friend used a patriotic rhetoric that he doesn't want his country to fail. As if we want the country to fail. If you're serious and if you're sincere, fight poverty, fight pollution, fight social evils. These are eating into the vitals of our nation. Grow up, my worthy opponents. I am neglecting the unworthy statement of my worthy opponent about the suicide of the country's president. Come on, it is just irresponsible citizens choosing inefficient leadership. Finally, I can only laugh at the naivety and petty-mindedness of my worthy opponent. They are confusing us as they cannot convince us. They are telling, what if defense gets corrupted? What if judiciary gets corrupted? What if this? What if that? They are using what if as a super glue. Yes, they are using what if as a super glue to cover up their hollow arguments. No one is saying corruption is not a problem. Of course it is. But there are several problems that are major, which have devastating effects, causing the fall of a nation. Let's work on it. I rest my case.
Thank you, A7.
Good morning once again. The debate here seems like a courtroom drama, where our talented lawyers are trying to defend corruption, which is the root cause of a nation's failure, stated even by UN. My opponents state confidently that no country has failed due to corruption, and conveniently forgot about the failure of Venezuela, Uganda, Cameroon, and an endless list of countries. Common sense is uncommon, as it is clearly seen in my opponent's views. How can a corrupt leader solve the problems of his nation and progress? Be amazed to know that Denmark is the second happiest country in the world, with the highest paid taxes, highest trust in safety, where education to healthcare is aided by the government. And before you question its development, my clever opponents stated fictional facts about North Korea and Iraq. North Korea remains underdeveloped, all thanks to its corrupt leader, whereas the crisis in Iraq was all due to the government's failure to check corruption. All things considered, intelligence seems to be non-existent on that side, because here my opponents sit advocating profusely for a parasite, just as the way my worthy opponents are sucking the wisdom out of the debate. Thank you.
Thank you, F8, for your arguments. Now I would like to invite A8 onto the stage for presenting the rebuttal.
Good morning once again. One of my worthy opponents stated, a survey of 16 Asian countries shows that 1 unit increase in the CPI leads to 9 to 14% decrease in the FTI. So friend, what about the rest 179 countries? The speaker's statement simply proves that corruption didn't affect the foreign direct investment of a majority of 179 countries and only affected 16 countries. Secondly, my opponent stated, in highly corrupt countries, the infant mortality rate is much higher and the literacy rate is 25% lower. Though my opponent failed to provide the source of information, let me prove the statement wrong. Nepal, one of the highly corrupted countries, ranking 124 in the corruption index in 2019, has an infant mortality rate of only 34 per 1,000 live births, which is so low, and literacy rate 64%, which is high. So how can you say corruption has a detrimental effect on the infant mortality rates and literacy rates? Thirdly, one of my opponents stated, according to the corruption index, many of the developing countries are corrupt. Let me enlighten my opponent. Even though these countries are corrupt, they are still developing. And you proved corruption is a part of development. Fourthly, one of them stated the major cause for Somalia's failure is corruption. Have you heard of Somali civil war? This was in fact the major cause for Somalia's failure. And about corruption, which is the after effect of it. My opponents may sound smart with their arguments quoted in honey, but there's germ saying, a monkey raped itself is still a monkey. I rest my case and thank you.
Thank you, AA.
Corrupt leaders lead to the failure of the nation. Ladies and gentlemen, let me stress that the nation will not be destroyed by those who do evil, but also by those who remain silent. And that is the citizens without whom a nation will not exist. Greetings again. My opponents say that people go against the government by adopting corruption. Even Gandhiji has said that if the law is just, it is your duty to obey it, and if it is unjust, it is your duty to break it. And we all are aware that how many laws legislated nowadays are just. Corruption has started taking people's lives. Their statement proves that my opponents are not at all far-sighted to see corruption, but totally short-sighted to see that it is poverty due to which millions of people starve to death daily. Countries are criminalized due to corruption, but looting and murders do not involve corruption always. Man is bound to make mistakes, so you can't put the blame of the collapse of a skyscraper on corruption. And how can I forget the atomic bomb due to which a country will not collapse, but a country will collapse due to corruption? How illogical. Please go and ask the people who have faced these attacks. My opponents have thus been successful in proving that they are very good storytellers. Thank you.
Thank you, A9. And with this, we come to an end of an exciting debate session with a convincing display of ideas and expressions. Please put your hands together for all the participants appreciating their hard work and dedication. A wholehearted appreciation to all the talented participants. Now, before going any further, I would like to introduce all the participants. First, from the 4 team, we have Safura Kulsum of TPS Jeddah. F2, Mikdad Hanif from International Indian School, Riyadh. F3, Zaina Lateef, International Indian School, Jeddah. F4, Muhammad Ali, International Indian School, Tayyab. F5, Mehrul Zahra, Youth International School. F6, Safa Nasir, MMEIS Riyadh. F7, Samrud Sunil, International Indian School, Dammam. F8, Subhan Ahmed Khan, International Indian School, Dubai.
Now the women's team, speaker A1, Ati Yasuf Kozan, MMIS Riyadh. Speaker A2, Rahman Ahmed of Jahseen International School, Riyadh. Speaker A3, Fahim, International Indian School, Jeddah. Speaker A4, Mr. Yusuf Al School, Vermont. Speaker A5, Haryana Shir Granwal International School, Jammu. Speaker A6, Alia New Al International School, Jeddah. Speaker A7, Aisha Safari International Indian School, Sudan. Speaker A8, Yadiju International Indian School, Dammam. Speaker A9, Rahman Melanie. Freedom is hammered out on the annual discussion.
I can hear prayers being chanted and prayer of excitement and hope filling up this auditorium. Heartbeats racing and fingers being crossed as we hear the declaration of results on this grand occasion. From the very beginning of the program to this very minute, we all have been waiting for this moment to arrive, and therefore without further ado, I would like to invite Vice Principal of Boys Section, Dr. Najeeb Qais, VP of Girls Section, Mrs. Farida Nissan, COE, Mr. Abdul Wakeel, onto the stage to declare the winners.
Together for skillful debaters who did their best in putting in their active methods into making this event a memorable occasion for all of us. I would also like to take this opportunity to appreciate all the teachers of the English department and of the staff members who work day in and day out to make this event successful. A round of applause for them.
Results are ready. As it was pointed out by all the judges, both the teams have done very well. So congratulations to both the teams, irrespective of the result, winning or losing. These are two sides of the coin. So as participants, whether you win or lose, both are important. So I will start from the team for the motion. Third best speaker is Samroon Sunil from the National Indian School, Dammam. Competition was very tough. This speaker scored 204.5 points. And the second best speaker with a very small margin, Mahmood. from Bloom's International School. Score only 0.5 marks more than the third place speaker. That is 205 points. And the best speaker, again very small margin, that is margin of 1 mark only. Zaina Lateef of IISJ, 206 points.
And now we move on to the student, the team that spoke against the topic. Are you ready? Third position, best speaker. The third position is bagged by Noman Ahmed, Al Yasmin International School. He has scored 210.5 points out of 240. Well done. The best speaker, second position, secured by Vaya Riju, International Indian School, Dammam, 217.5 points out of 240. And then for the best speaker, Fahim from